On Nightside tonight, floods forced the evacuation of a number of communities near Swan River. The party's over. 300 Winnipeg grads return home after being kicked out of a Minneapolis hotel. And in sports, the Blue Jays look to end a 4-game losing streak against the White Sox. Good evening. For the second time in less than 2 weeks, a natural disaster has hit Manitoba. Last week, it was forest fires in northern Manitoba. Tonight, flash floods. As much as 160 millimeters of rain has soaked western Manitoba since Saturday night. As many as 11,000 people are the victims of flash flooding. A state of emergency has been declared. Let's take a look at a map that gives you a better understanding of the area affected. Over the weekend, hundreds of residents from Red Deer Lake, Minitonas, and the Indian Birch Reserve were evacuated. Numerous roads and bridges are washed out. The only way in or out is by air. We begin our top story coverage with NewsHour's Glenn Cassie, who reports from north of Swan River.
Torrents of water pouring down off the Porcupine Mountain knocked out this chunk of Highway 10 just north of Swan River. But it was just one of many roads and bridges that gave way to Mother Nature.
We had several communities to the north on Highway 77 that are without food, without water, without electricity, without communications. So that was our prime objective, was to establish communications, provide them food and water.
RCMP, Natural Resources, and Emergency Measures personnel used helicopters to bring in supplies to areas like Mafeking. This is what's left of the only road out of Mafeking to the south, and the road to the north is gone too.
From what I've heard, it's been probably the worst flooding in recent memory.
At least one man is lucky to be alive tonight after he ignored a barricade and was swept off the road and into the water.
He managed to pull himself out, and we evacuated him this morning to the hospital.
How long was he in the river for?
He was in the river for, I guess, 10 or 15 minutes, and it was fairly scary for him.
Many fields are also flooded, and cattle are scrambling to find high ground. Municipalities are scrambling too, trying to get even the smallest washouts repaired. Road crews are working feverishly to repair bridges like this and many others around the whole area. And as torrents continue to pound away at the soggy soil, there are fears that more roads and bridges could give way. Near Bellsite, Manitoba, Glenn Cassie, CKY NewsHour. The flooding has also closed portions of main roads. Highways 10, 20, and 83, and several smaller roads are covered with water, and at least 7 bridges have been washed out. If you're traveling to the Pas, you will have to use Highway 6 and 60 through the Interlake. Access through Saskatchewan is not possible. MTS and Manitoba Hydro are working on repairing telephone service and power to many of the communities. And farmers in the region haven't escaped the effects of the storm. Hundreds of fields are underwater, especially in the Birch River area west of Swan Lake. Canola, barley, and alfalfa fields in the region are at risk, but it's still too early to tell how badly those crops have been damaged. The floods have isolated several communities. An evacuation center has been set up in Swan River. Food and water are being airlifted out, and people needing shelter and medical help are being airlifted in. For those who have been allowed to return home, there's plenty of work to be done. NewsHour's Kelly Den has that story.
When Mark Lyons bought this house in Minitonas just a month ago, he never bargained on 4 feet of water in his basement. Now his washer and dryer and furnace are all destroyed.
The only thing that's going through my mind is I don't think my insurance covers this. It's devastating. I don't even know what to think.
The people of Minitonas suffered the most property damage, but after being evacuated last night, most of its 600 residents are now back home, sweeping up the mess. But anyone leaving Minitonas last night might have had some tricky negotiating to do. They could have run into this, one of 5 bridges in the area washed out by the raging floodwaters. But the people of Minitonas weren't the only ones forced out of their homes. More than 100 residents of the Indian Birch Reserve have been housed in Swan River since their community was cut off.
I haven't been to sleep yet.
And after how many hours?
Since we got here, 1:30. I tried to sleep this morning, but I couldn't sleep because all the kids were awake.
It was a sleepless night for many people, including volunteers who were sandbagging, but they were no match for the raging water. Rita Holm has lived here 50 years and has never seen it so bad.
I don't know. I guess the water came so fast.
Too fast for Henry Natyna, who constructed this dike from hay bales on his farm. The water rushed over and washed away this road anyway.
It was heading into town before we stopped her.
You're a hero.
No, I just did helped anyway, so.
Everyone around Swan River wishes the rain would stop. Pumps are working overtime getting rid of the water from soggy basements, and it's likely they'll be in operation for a little while yet. The rain is still coming down. In Minitonas, Kelly Den, CKY News Hour.
I'll have more news for you in a bit. Time now to check local conditions around